Last week in the Premier League, I got one score correct. Liverpool beating Burnley 3-1. Very happy with that prediction. Pretty annoyed at Chelsea as I had them to beat Palace 2-1 and they had to go and score two late goals. Why couldn't they have just scored the one? They're very greedy. However, it was a good win for Chelsea. Might lift their confidence at the moment because they've been struggling. Man United got a great win against Aston Villa. And Sheffield United really surprised me by becoming the only side to go to Kenilworth Road this season and win by a margin bigger than one. You really wouldn't have expected that. I think it's a great stat considering how much Sheffield United have struggled this season. Without further ado, let's get into our predictions for this weekend's fixtures. And we start with Brentford against Liverpool. Of course it's Liverpool starting. It's a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday. But luckily for Jurgen Klopp, he can't have too much to complain about as they're not in Europe to play because they're in the next stage of the Europa League. So it's good for Klopp and hopefully this can be an entertaining opener for the weekend. Brentford, been in decent form since Ivan Toney came back. He's scored 3 in his 4 matches and they've won 2 out of 4, losing the other 2. That's enough really. 2 wins and 2 losses every 4 games will be enough to keep them away from that relegation battle that it looked like they were heading towards. So I think Brentford can be pretty happy with this kind of rate of results. It will do. It's not a great season for them, but a 2-0 win at Wolves was quite unexpected, to be honest. I really didn't see Brentford getting anything, so good result. This will be a tough ask. Liverpool been winning a lot of games. They bounced back from their 3-1 loss at Arsenal with a 3-1 win against Burnley. That was my only correct score from last weekend's results. It was very good from Liverpool. I'm expecting them to get more points here. Maybe a bit tighter, but I've got to go Liverpool to win 2-1. Burnley take on Arsenal in our next fixture. And Burnley, they're picking up a point here and there, but in their last 6 games, they've drawn 2, lost 4. That's not going to see them to safety. They're already in a tough predicament, but if they can't pick up any wins, they are going to get relegated. I mean, 1 win in 7 is definitely not good enough. So, difficult season so far for Burnley. I do believe that they could turn it around because there are a few teams struggling to pick up wins, but it's going to have to be a pretty strong effort and it's going to have to start sometime around now. The problem for them is they're against an Arsenal side that are scoring a lot of goals. They're in brilliant form. I mean, the last 4 fixtures, it's been a 5-0 win against Palace, a 2-1 against Forest, so a bit tighter, but then a 3-1 win over Liverpool, very good, and then a 6-0 win away at West Ham. So Arsenal are in great form. I can't see anything for Burnley in this one. So I'm just going to pick a number and go for Arsenal to win 3-0. It's Fulham up against Villa next. Now Fulham, 3 games unbeaten. Their home form's been decent this season with 22 points from 12 games. So that's almost 2 points per game. Villa slipping into a bit of poor form. 2 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses from their last 7 in the league. So not really hitting the heights they were previously. They've lost their last 2 home games against Newcastle and Man United, but they did win their last away game 5-0 against Sheffield United. This one, I've just got a feeling it's not going to be Villa's day. It's going to be a bit of a tight one. Fulham, can come up with surprises. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. It's Newcastle up against Bournemouth now. And, I mean, Newcastle, they'd lost 4 in a row in the league. But their last 3 games, 2 wins and a draw. They've scored 10 in those 3. So the goals are flowing again. The results are getting better. They can now go on a bit of a European push. Bournemouth, not so good. No wins in 5 in the league for them. Couple of draws here and there. But that good winning streak where they won like 6 out of 7 or something around that, that's really helped their season, because without that, they'd be in the relegation zone now. So they started poorly. They're in a bit of a poor run of form now, but I do believe they've got some strong players for this division, and really, I think they can finish top of the bottom half of the table. So 11th, 12th, something like that. I think they can do it. This game, however, I just think Newcastle have got too much, so I will go for the Magpies to get all 3 points in a 2-1 win. Forest face West Ham next in what looks to be a tight game. Now Forest, they were in some decent form back end of 2023 when Nuno first came in. They picked up back-to-back victories against Newcastle and Man United. However, since then, since the turn of the new year, they've drawn 1 and lost 3 of their Premier League fixtures, so no wins yet this year. They are very firmly in a relegation battle. They need to start getting some wins. They've obviously got quality. They just kind of need to put it all together. And I think this is a good sort of game to do it in, because West Ham haven't won in 5. They've lost their last 2 games. It was 3-0 against Man United and then 6-0 against Arsenal. So when there's no Paqueta, there's no party. The goals have dried up. I've got a feeling they're not going to score again, and I think Forest will take advantage of that and win it 1-0. Spurs v Wolves is next, and Spurs have been in good form, unbeaten in 5, only lost 1 of their last 9, and they're scoring plenty of goals. Now Wolves were also scoring plenty of goals, however, in the last match they lost 2-0 to Brentford. Matheus Cunha went off in the 20th minute, and since that point in the game, it kind of just went away from them. They couldn't do much because a lot does go through Cunha. He drives through the channels with the ball very well. He breaks teams down, and he's just such an explosive player. So missing him is going to be key. It means Neto has to do a lot of the work. Hwang Hee-chan should be back from the Asia Cup for this one, so that does give them a boost. But I think with those 3 all playing, they'd be a brilliant force and very hard to stop. However, in this one, I am going to go for Spurs to get all 3 points, but maybe be a bit leaky. So high scoring, as Spurs tend to like with their approach. A 3-2 win for Spurs. Man City face Chelsea, and this is the big clash, the one that everyone's going to have their eyes on. Man City, very strong form. They've won all 7 games in all competitions in 2024. Still won every game since the Club World Cup. They're second in the league, but they have got a game in hand over Liverpool. So again, it's in Man City's hands. If they win all their games, they've won the league. And to be honest, I don't see a reason why they don't win all their games. They're in another one of those veins of form where they just don't look like losing games. So City, very strong. Now, Chelsea, you can't really call them strong because they're very hit and miss. You never know what side's going to turn up. The side that I saw play in the FA Cup replay against Villa away were very good. That 3-1 win, Chelsea were dominant. They did then win their next match, a 3-1 against Palace, but Palace didn't have Eze or Elise, which normally means they lose. Palace weren't great, but they got to the 90th minute and it was 1-1. Chelsea just had a very, very late flurry that saved them. But, yeah, Chelsea, not sure. This fixture in the reverse was probably one of the best games of the season, that 4-4 draw. Cole Palmer getting in on the act against his former club. Let's see if he can do it again. But I do think City will win this. I think they probably will dominate the game. Chelsea might get a chance and score it on the counter-attack, but Man City to win 3-1. Sheffield United against Brighton. Quite sad that this is a 2 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday. I understand everyone needs their games on telly, but this doesn't look too exciting. Sheffield United, they picked up their first win after 7 without a win. It was a 3-1 against Luton. And as I said in the intro, it's the first time Luton have lost at Kenilworth Road this season by more than 1 goal. So, bit of a surprise that Sheffield United were the team to do that, but I mean, it was a massive win for Sheffield United because it gets them closer to safety whilst damaging one of their relegation battle teams in the process. So, great win. Can they follow it up? I mean, they might get a point out of it. Brighton are quite inconsistent. They are in danger of falling into the bottom half, which you wouldn't have really put them there at the start of the season because they were so good last season. I think this is just I think it will be a tight game, but I've just got a feeling Brighton will get the job done. They haven't been winning away recently, but I can just see Brighton getting all 3 points and winning 2-1. And the half-4 kick-off on Sunday is Luton against Man United. This looks like it could be exciting. Luton, the problem with them seems to be playing against teams in and around them. They seem to pick up more points against the teams you wouldn't expect, maybe because the other teams have more of the ball, but they seem to step up to the occasion when there's a stronger team playing against them. So last weekend they lost 3-1 to Sheffield United. You wouldn't have seen it coming, but again they've lost to Burnley this season and Burnley haven't won many. So Luton are a strange one when it comes to those teams around them, but against teams that are much higher than them, they seem pretty good. So this could be a good one to watch. Man United have now seen themselves bounce up the table and they're only 6 points off the top 4, which is a massive surprise, but 3 wins in a row does help you with things like that. And they're in very, very fine form. Man United have kind of turned it on. Their attacking players are turning up. Højlund has scored in, I think it's 5 games in a row now, so he's starting to get into form and they're looking pretty good. I think it'll be tight. I don't know if maybe Luton's bubble might have burst at home after losing that one to Sheffield United, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Man United. And finally, the Monday slot is taken by Crystal Palace for the second week in a row as they travel to Everton. And this is a big relegation clash. Everton are only 5 points behind Palace, and Everton are the gatekeepers to the relegation zone, sitting in 18th. So, I mean, if Everton win, Palace are in deep, deep trouble. Everton haven't won in 7 in the league. 4 losses, 3 draws. They're not in good form. They did lose last time to Man City. It was 2-0. You can kind of forgive them for that if they win here. Palace, it really depends if Eze and Elise play. I know I've said it all season. They were pretty good against Chelsea. Jefferson Lerma scored an absolute belter of a goal, and he's been in good form this season, but they just couldn't hold on. And that's Palace's problem. They don't score enough goals, and then they just concede too many. I know that's a stupid analogy. I feel like Michael Owen after saying that, but they've got a problem where when they score, they can never ever hold on. No matter how many goals they score, they could score 3 in a game, and I still wouldn't fancy them to win it. But yeah, they've got problems, Palace. They're not in a great state. But this just in, Roy Hodgson has actually been relieved of his duties today. So interesting to see that. The Eintracht Frankfurt boss is taking the role. Now, I don't know too much about how Frankfurt have been getting on this season, but it's an interesting addition. I know they got a brilliant win against Bayern Munich earlier in the season. I think it was a 5-1 win, so clearly capable of doing something. But it's a tough game to call this, because if Eze and Elise play, I'd fancy Palace. If they don't, I don't know who I fancy. Not Palace, but it might be a draw. So I'm going to go with that. I know this has been a very, very long and pretty dull analysis of this game, but for me, it's a 1-1. So those are my predictions for these Premier League fixtures. Some good games in here, some very important ones. Who will be top by the end of this match week? And who will be in the relegation zone. Make sure to get your predictions for these games in the comments, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.